Right folks, welcome back to Fishing with Kirk. Here we are back at the wonderful S&R Fisheries. So we're back on a peg that we fished last year about this time, called Alfies peg. Really good peg. Last year we had 4 fish up to about 27 pounds. So we're actually here for 3 nights this time, so we're really lucky. We've just arrived quite late on Thursday. It's about 4:30. We've just got the bivvy up, we're getting the rod set up. So I'll just talk you through the tactics. We've not found any spots yet, but from knowing from last time, there's 2 or 3 areas that I'm going to go and have a look at with the boat. But in terms of the rigs, I'm just going for our trusty short spinner rigs. So what we've got here, we've got some S7. So we've got DNA baits S7. We've got slightly different hook baits there. We're just going to try 3 different approaches. We've got an out and out match the hatch. So S7 match the hatch. An S7 tipped with a raspberry wafter. You're not going to miss that in the night, are you? That's like a beacon, and then that's a washed out S7 half tone wafter. So all the rigs are very, very similar. So about 3.5 inches of hydrolink material, and we're tying them off to a size 6 L&D Sharps curve shank. And they're quite aggressive. You can see the bend there on the shrink tube. So really quite aggressive. So they're going to sit nicely and give us a good hook hold if we get a bite. So we're going to get the rods out. Find the spots, get the rods out, but come on, let's have a look at the bait. So in terms of the bait, we're going to fish fairly steady because the lake's not been fishing amazingly well. So we are going to basically be fishing for a fish at a time, a bite at a time. So what we've got is a combination of DNA Secret 7, which is a really nice kind of fruity fishy smell. They look a little bit like that. And then we've also mixed in some bug, same thing, so the dumbbell wafters. And what Niall's been doing is he's been busy with the crusher, so I can take no credit for the contents of this bucket. That's all Niall's work. But all we've been doing is chucking a portion of the dumbbell wafters into the crusher, giving them a heave ho like that, turning them into powder. Not super fine, so we want a few little bits of particle in there to kind of match the wafter. They've all gone in the bucket, and then we're going to really over wet and soak that with some of the hydro spod syrup. So again, Secret 7, really nice bait for this time of year. You can use it all year round with confidence, but particularly this time of year, it's a fruity fish mix, so it does really lend itself well all year round. And then the bug, I think the bug's a brilliant bait. I've caught loads of fish on that over the years. Yeah, it's kind of a sweet fish. So we're going to give it a nice amount in there. You can see how thick that liquid is, the way it's coming out of the bottle. So we're going to give a decent chunk of that. And then we're going to put some water in and mix it all up into a nice porridge. So we'll get that mixed up and we'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Right, here we are down at the lake, so we're just going to get some water into the bucket. So lake water, just like that, a decent amount, and we're just going to stir that through. So that'll spread the liquid right through the crumb. And what we'll do is we'll just keep adding water. You see, that's pretty much all been absorbed already. So this is kind of the texture we want, a little bit lumpy, a little bit pasty. But we're going to need to add more water because that's just going to keep absorbing the water probably for the next 20 minutes. So I'm just going to keep adding a good amount and get that well mixed through. So over wet it so it all gets wet and mixed in. Still got some dry in the corners, so make sure you get right down into the corners. Mix it all in. Right, something like that, but that's just going to continue to dry out over the next few minutes, and then I'll come back to it. I'm going to get the boat out, going to have a look, see what's going on. We'll return to this, and I think that'll need even more water still, so let's come back in 5 minutes. Right, so we left this about 15 minutes, and as I thought, it's kind of firmed up a bit. So it was quite runny originally, then it went quite hard. So that's more or less where you want it to be, a little bit like a paste. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit more water in, just a splash, just to get it a little bit wetter. because what we really want is a really nice attractive cloud going through the water, and I'm going to put a few pellets and a few whole baits in there, and then really we'll just expect like a carpet bait about this big. We found some spots now, so we've got 2 spots in front of us, about 15 wraps that are 5 feet. So this bait will just spread out over maybe a couple of meters, 1.5 meters over that depth, and the hook bait and the particles will stay in the middle. We've also found a spot up the left-hand margin, which is about 4.5 foot, and then I've got a spot right over in the right-hand margin, which is 2.5 feet, which will be good for kind of in the day. If we're going to get a bite draw in a day, I think it'll be over in that right-hand margin. So we've got a plan, we've got some rigs, we've got some bait. We're just going to finish it off with a bit of smoke. So this is really good again for getting a nice cloud in the water. So Secret 7 amino smoke. So I'm just going to give it a nice squirt of that. So again, we'll just get that in there and mixed in. And then we'll just do a little tester in the water. So I'm just going to put a little drop of this in so you'll be able to see the cloud. So that's basically the effect that we're looking for. A real nice cloud. You can see the particles sunk down quite quickly, but that cloud's going to linger in the water for quite a while and hopefully attract some fish in, and they're going to follow the noses down onto the bait. So we've ordered the food tonight, so we're looking forward to a burger with some, what's it got on it? Burger sauce and some nachos. So it's a bit of a Mexican. There's 1 or 2 fish in the area, folks. So we're going to get our burger, we're going to get the rods out, and then hopefully we're going to get 1 or 2 bites tonight, because there's definitely some fish in the bay. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon with the fish. Right folks, 7:45 on Thursday. We've just had some food and we're just kind of waiting for something to happen. So it's come a little bit cloudy, a little bit cooler, which I think is good, because the fish were cruising around having a bit of a sunbathe. They seem to have disappeared, so I'm hoping that they've disappeared down rather than out of the peg. I've had one indication on the middle rod, which is over that kind of 5 foot plateau towards the island, but yeah, probably just a bit of a liner or something like that. So I'm going to give it another probably hour, and then I'm going to reset the rods and just make sure that we've got fresh bait on and we're ready for some action overnight. So yeah, hopefully see you then with the fish. Nice one. You hungry?
Yeah.
We catch anything last night? Pretty quiet, wasn't it? Yeah. There was a few fish around, but
yeah, not much action.
No. But we're still going to try, right?
Yeah. 2 more days to go.
Yeah. Right, good morning. It's Friday morning. Really quiet night actually. I was expecting to get a fish, but it's been super quiet. So the conditions changed quite a bit. It was quite warm, kind of 8-9 o'clock, and then it got fairly chilly overnight and actually started to rain in the middle of the night. So I think that rain and a change in wind directions probably pushed the fish out of this bay, which is a bit of a shame. We've redone the rods this morning, put 2 rods over to the right hand margin and 1 on the hump spot. There's been the odd fish showing, but really few and far between. We have just seen the pole, so there's a fox halo pole kind of on the spot where that gravel hump is, and that's been kind of knocking around a little bit this morning, and we have got a rod pretty close to that, so we're still hopeful, but there's definitely a lot less fish around than there was yesterday. So yeah, we're going to give it another couple of hours in these spots, and then we're going to reassess, I think. But yeah, still waiting for that bite, but yeah, all good, fingers crossed. Right folks, so it's midday on Friday, still not had any action. Not a load of fish in the bay, but what we're thinking is it's Friday, it's moving day, there's going to be a lot of people come on, it's going to push the fish up to this end. Not totally happy with the rig, so we've been using basically a little Ronnie rig. You can see there's some stiffness in that. It's basically what that is that's a length of rigmarole Hydrolink, which is really good if you're fishing over a really clean bottom. Because basically what it is it's a coated fluorocarbon. So what you get there is you get the coated element, but also you can see it's actually quite stiff as well. So it retains its sort of fluorocarbon memory. You can get it over a kettle and get it to sit straight. So if you're fishing over a really hard, guaranteed hard bottom, you can't really beat that. But what we've been noticing today is we've been bringing in a little bit of weed back. Sort of a blanket weed on the bottom. My slight concern is that we might be sat over a piece of weed and you end up with sort of dodgy presentation. If you sat over a bit of weed like that, you're going to end up with a kink in the line, and I don't think that's going to look great for the fish. So, a bit of a rethink. We had a chat with Jake the bailiff. He sort of shared the view, so we're going to move on to kind of pretty standard blowback rigs. So you can see there at the business end we've got a standard blowback presentation with a rig ring, and that just allows that bait to travel back up the hook. So I'm just going to show you how to tie these. So the key difference is we're moving towards the skinful hook length material. So this is much more supple. So you can see here, this is the length of it. So this is a plastic coated braid, but it's much softer. It will self-set to a degree, but not as much as a fluorocarbon. So what I've done is I've stripped off about 10 inches of the green skinful. This end I've stripped back probably 3 inches of the plastic coating, and I've tied just a loop on that end. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to mount a wafter. So all I'm going to go with is an S7 on here. So we're going to try a few different hook baits and different colours just to see if we can kind of figure anything out. So we're just going to mount this on the end of the skinful. So nice fine baiting needle, bang through the middle, and then we're just going to pull that onto the loop like so. Bump. Once that pops through, we take one of our boilie stops, pull that off, and we're just going to pop that through the loop like so. And then the next piece of work is pretty easy. So what we need to do is just simply tie on a ring rig. So look at that, really tiny. Hope that will focus on the camera, but that's basically called a rig ring. And all we're going to do is tie a granny knot, one granny knot, and we're going to tie that the distance that you want your boilie to be from the hook. So you can see on that rig there, the rig ring, the wafter's coming off the rig ring, and that is less than a centimetre away. So that's sort of distance. So really that's the distance that you want your bait to be away from your hook. So I'm just going to thread it through from the opposite end with the wafter on, and then all we're looking to do is tie a real simple granny knot. Even I can tie a granny knot, and then we're just going to slide that knot with the ring in it. You see that moving down nicely, the knot, and then you're just going to get that to be roughly 1 centimetre away from your wafter. Right, so we're there about 1 centimetre, so we're just going to pull that tight, and there you can see you've got your wafter and your rig ring about 1 centimetre above it. So pull that fairly tight, And the next piece is you get your hook. So we're going to use a curve shank for this. I'm going to use a size 4 L&D curve shank. So a great hook for decent sized fish, and we are fishing for fish up to touching 40 pound here. Let me just show you that against there. So it's a curve shank hook, kind of a sweeping hook, hand sharpened, so a real nice sharp point on there. So all we're going to then do is we take our hook and our ring, and we're just going to put the tip of the hook through the ring like so. Okay, and then what we're trying to do is line up the ring with the barb on the hook, or if it's barbless, where you think the barb would be, so about there. And then what we're going to do is tie a knotless knot on the hook to keep all that in place. Okay, so we got the rig ring pretty much bang opposite the barb, and then we're going to just finish that off with a knotless knot. I like to go 7 times round on a knotless knot. Don't ask me why, I just do. And then don't forget, you always come from the back of the hook to the front on a knotless knot, pull that up, and then hopefully everything looks good. You've basically got your rig swivel is opposite your barb, and then you've got about 1 centimetre or so of braid between your rig swivel and your wafter. So we're just going to finish that off with a little bit of shrink tube. Right, so I've cut off about 1 inch of shrink tube, so all we're going to do is slide that down over the knot like so, and then we're just going to steam that into position using the kettle. So that's all shrunk, and then we're just going to manipulate the tube so it follows the shape of the hook around like that. Turn that off, steam me up. So that now is effectively the end of the rig there. So the shrink tubes follows the shape of the hook, so we get that aggressive kind of backwards angle, and then what you get at this end of the hook is when you get a bite, the fish can blow that back up the hook, and the hook can go further back in the fish's mouth, hence where the name blowback rig comes from. So we're just going to finish that off with an anti-tangle sleeve and a figure of 8 knot, and then that's your blowback rig done and dusted. Right, so we've just dropped these into a bait tub just to give you an idea of what they should look like. So you can see the hooks are lying on the side, and then the wafters are just popped up very slightly above them. So that should just sit on top of any weed a lot better than the Ronnie rigs. So yeah, we're going to give them a go next time we reset the rods. Right folks, it's about 6:30 on Friday. We've just redone the rods. We've changed the rigs, so as we showed you on the video earlier, we've gone on to some blowback rigs. So we spoke to Jake, that was his recommendation. There is quite a bit of weed which I've not encountered before, nothing savage, but just enough to just put a little doubt in your mind when you're fishing a Ronnie rig. So we swapped them all over to blowbacks. We've got 2 rods on the pole spot, so beautiful spot, comes up really nice to about 5 foot from 8, drops away to 8 again, and looks really clean on the top. And then we've got 1 rod right in the right hand margin over there, because there was some fish boshing on there through the night right under the tree, so in sort of 3 foot of water through the night. So rods are on the dance floor. Bait wise, we've just been really frugal. We've just put a scoop of the old boilie slop in there, and maybe 15-20 pellets and half a dozen of the dumbbell wafters. So just taking it really steady. There's quite a few anglers arrived today, obviously, with it being Friday, so everyone's kind of here getting set up, boshing a bit of bait in. So I'm hoping that steady away approach, we can just provide a little bit of sanctuary in this quiet end of the lake, and the fish will come up. But the wind is properly against us. It's a northerly wind which is blasting right down the other end of the lake, but look, I don't think the fish massively follow the wind on here, so hopefully it's not going to make any difference. So we're just going to whack on some ham and cheese toasties, and we're going to watch Happy Gilmore 2, and we're going to hope that one of these rods rattles off before too long. Right folks, it's about 3 o'clock on Saturday. We've just been out for a bit of a drive. We've just been into Cleethorpes for an hour, which was very nice. There was a food festival on, so we got ourselves a bit of lunch. Had a little wander around. Thinking being, we'll just leave the peg, take the rods out, just let it rest for a couple of hours, probably 2.5, 3 hours. Wind's starting to come up this end as per the forecast, so hopefully a few fish are going to get on that wind. The rods haven't been in for a while, there's been no bait going in the peg, so hopefully there's a few fish settled. There's definitely a few fish around, but they look to be very much kind of up in the water and sunning themselves. But what we've done is we've put the rods back out. So I've put a rod, the right hand rod, kind of down the margin under the tree in between the two pegs. So in front of this tree here, taking the bait boat right underneath and drop that into about 3 foot of water. Again, it's just an area with the peg that we haven't fished. And then we've kept one of our rods out on the pole, so just to the side of the island. You can see it, there's a tree, a skinny tree in the water, and probably 20 yards this way there's a fox halo pole stuck there. Really nice plateau there that goes to about 5 foot, so we've got one rod on there. The only thing that I have changed on that is I've put a standard bottom bait on there rather than a wafter. Just wondering if the slight bit of wafting is putting the fish off, so I've changed that up a little bit. And then the left hand rod, we've gone kind of quite tight into this margin, but a little bit further out than we have been fishing. So again, that is in about 3.5 foot of water. We've just got a yellow S7 dumbbell wafter, and we're just fishing all of these rods over a bit of the boilie slop and a few pellets. So really frugal, just literally trying to just get that one bite, because we've been here for 48 hours now and we've not managed to get a bite. So we're just going super I suppose defensive mode, not looking to catch a hit of fish, we're just looking for that first bite. Hopefully this change in wind direction will help us up this end, and hopefully we can get fish on the bank, given all our effort over the last day or two. So fingers crossed. Right folks, it's about 4 o'clock, and I think half the plan has worked, because there seems to be quite a lot of fish down this end of the lake. The wind's now coming up this end. We've had the rods out of the water for quite a while, and there's quite a few fish kind of on the surface sunbathing. I'll spin the camera around and see if I can show you. So yeah, you can just see sort of 3 or 4 fish there just in the upper layers, just mooching around. They're definitely not feeding fish, but hopefully there'll be fish that drop down and have a peck at some point. Don't know if you can hear it, but in the background there's some live music. With the wind coming this way, we can just about hear it, so must be a wedding or something like that around the corner. But yeah, definitely a few fish around. Just got to hope that at some point in the next 16 hours one decides to drop down and have a peck. Morning folks, Sunday morning, it's about 7 o'clock. Just come out of the bivvy there, because the left hand rod, a couple of beeps and the bobbin's pulled up tight to the rod. Go on, and it's just crept back down again, which is a little bit strange. But yeah, other than that, it's been a very quiet night. It's been quite chilly, quite heavy dew. Everything's pretty wet this morning. We've not had any rain, so yeah, a little bit disappointing really. We've got another couple of hours, so I'm going to bring the car around in about half an hour and we're just going to start to slowly pack up. But yeah, it's been a really strange session. There's been fish around, we've seen lots of fish showing and sunbathing, but we've just not managed to get a bite. And I think the story's been the same for the majority of anglers on the lake. Fish been really out of sorts for S&R standards. It's normally a venue where you can guarantee coming and getting a few bites. So yeah, disappointing on the fishing front, but as always, really nice place to come, really well looked after. And yeah, just a few nights under the stars, under the canvas, just chilling out and spending a bit of time with the with the big guy. So yeah, it's been enjoyable, but yeah, disappointing we've not managed to get a fish on the bank yet, but we do still have a couple of hours left, so fingers crossed.
Whoa.
You saying that's on? I don't know that. Who's really relaxed, right? I'm not sure, man. It's really weird. Oh, rug.
What was making it be?
Maybe it's a fish on.
Sounds like a huge fish. Oh no, there's 100% fish. At least I just saw the whole lot.
So we just had what we thought was a bite, but we just got picked up. Everything's gone solid. We've had it on for a minute or two, and it's come off, and then there's been a fish sort of up in the water waving around. I think there's a fish with something attached to it. Right, so we've literally got 5 minutes left of the session. Been a really frustrating couple of days on the sandpit. I've always felt there's been some fish in the peg. Not all the time every day, but certainly good chunks of time during the day there's been fish in the peg. Mainly just mooching around and sunbathing, but certain times of day they've been head and shouldering, albeit mainly in that kind of no fishing area beyond my peg. There's sort of a triangle in between bailiffs, Alfies and the social point where you can't go beyond, and the fish have kind of backed off behind there, and they've been jumping out and giving us a wave quite a bit this morning. So it's been, like I say, frustrating. I've changed up lots of things. I've changed up hook baits, rigs, kind of feeding and presentation. Basically, I've kept it steady. I've really just been fishing for one bite at a time, feeding quite a lot of boilie slop, so half a scoop of boilie slop and maybe 20-25 pellets over the top, just looking for that one sort of centre of attraction, one hook bait really in the middle of that, and just looking for a fish to pick it up. But that hasn't happened. We did have that kind of strange situation this morning, but I think I've probably a trailing fish is what I think's happened there. But yeah, dead unusual. Normally the sandpit's a place you can come, pretty much guarantee catching some fish at this time of year. The fish really do get around the lake through the course of the day. But look, it's been enjoyable. It's a lovely place. Like the actual conditions of the venue, everything's kind of nicely kind of wood chipped. All the pegs are well set out. You've got electricity on a lot of the pegs as well, so it's really comfortable fishing. Location wise, it's good. If you know, like yesterday we were had a bit of a quiet spell, so we jumped in the car and went to Cleethorpes for a couple of hours. So it's a nice location. The owners are great. The food was amazing. It's just given me a bit of a chance to chill for a couple of days, catch up on a bit of fishing. I've stripped down my entire rig box and retied all my rigs ahead of a trip to France in a few weeks' time. So I am ship shape now for France, which I probably wouldn't have done if I'd have been catching a few fish. Then I'd have been kind of focused on that a little bit more. But I have been able to get on top of that. I've now got all my rigs and stuff sorted for France, so that is a bonus. So yeah, bit of a frustrating one. We don't like coming and not catching, but hey, it's called fishing and not catching. So thank you for watching. Thanks for your continued support, folks. If you're not subscribed to the video, please consider subscribing. About 90% of people who watch my vids don't subscribe, so please just click that button if you don't subscribe already. It does make a difference, and it means we can continue making some nice quality videos for you in the future. So look, thanks for watching, and good luck the next time you're out on the bank. Tight lines.